Destiny 2 has had a rocky few years with incredible highs and also incredible lows. The launch of a new expansion is something that I am skeptical on nowadays. I love Destiny 2. I really love Destiny 2, or I think what I should say is I want to love Destiny 2. Sci-fi is my jam. First-person looter shooters are my jam. Space magic is my jam. An intertwined narrative with deep, meaningful lore is my jam. So on paper, Destiny 2 is everything I want. But in recent years, even after thousands of hours in the game, I find Destiny pretty hard to play. I want to play it, I want to enjoy it, but I do find it monotonous at times. So with the announcement of Edge of Fate, I literally told my friends to make sure I don't buy it. But the more they talked about it and the more they talked about the systems they're improving with it, the more and more I got on board. Was I excited for it? No. I kept my hype levels pretty subdued. But I definitely thought that the new game director and the team were taking it in a place where it needed to go. So I bought it. I gave it a chance. I sat down with the Edge of Fate on launch and I was pleasantly surprised. Now this video is going to be covering the story without any spoilers. It's going to be covering the new area. It's going to be covering my first 48 hours with the game. It won't be covering any end game gear changes or anything like that, because I just haven't had any experience with it just yet. I've finished the story, I've explored Kepler, and I have messed around quite a lot with the new Kepler only abilities, which we'll get onto in a little bit. But first, the story. The story of Destiny is something that I am massively invested in. The final shape is a standout of storytelling, but Lightfall is a train wreck of storytelling. So where does Edge of Fate sit? It's the start of a new beginning. It's a well-written story. It's a very well voice-acted story. It starts off your journey of intrigue. And if you're a lore nerd like me, it starts filling in gaps and adds more questions to the greater world of Destiny. When Edge of Fate was announced along with the new business model, they said we're no longer getting yearly expansions. We're getting 2 expansions a year at a cut down price with 2 major patches. And this did fill me with worry. It gave me a sense of, okay, this is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of them decreasing their support for Destiny. And I am pleasantly surprised to say that I was completely wrong. When you give this expansion the context of something like Lightfall, this expansion, this story, this writing, this storytelling is phenomenally executed comparatively to Lightfall. I don't think it's as good as something like Final Shape. I do think it's on par with something like Witch Queen. And now you're talking for half the price and you can get experience that is to the same polish as Witch Queen. I think that's pretty damn good. Some of the shine out moments of this expansion is the voice acting. The new character of Lodi is voiced incredibly well. There are some moments in this game that are very impactful, and I do feel quite attached to this new character. And I think that can be contributed to how good the voice acting really is. On the same note with the voice acting, Ikora, who is a main character in Destiny, has had a change of voice actor, and it is a little bit jarring, especially when you add in the context that it's voiced by a main villain of Destiny. But just this morning, I read an article where Bungie have come out and said that they are actually re-recording the voice lines with the original actor and that they are going to replace them eventually. And this whole situation was due to the voice actor being busy when they needed the voice lines recorded. So even though Ikora is voice acted still very well, because it's not the original voice, it does tend to miss something. And I'm glad they're going to replace the lines, even though I couldn't experience the story with the original voice actor. The number of cutscenes and the quality of the cutscenes are peak Destiny. Quite honestly exceptional. And I wasn't expecting this amount of voice acting and this number of cutscenes in what I came into this thinking would be a cut down experience. It's a little shorter than an old school expansion. It's in the same sort of vein as Shadowkeep, but the level of polish, execution, professionalism, voice acting, cutscene work is all still on par with Final Shape, with The Witch Queen, and other top-end expansions that we have come to know from the Bungie team. There are also a number of little improvements that added to the experience. One of my big bugbears with Destiny is that the characters don't look at you when they're talking to you, and this has been fixed. It is a really small thing for a character to turn its head and look at you when they're talking, but it adds something for me. I actually feel like I'm having a conversation with a NPC and not just a doll in the world. So the story is a great beginning, well executed, and it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel cut down or neglected in any way. So for that, I say bravo, Bungie. You have set a benchmark for what these future expansions are going to hold, and you must stick to it. And that's something that worries me. Bungie's track record is hit or miss. This is a hit, but I feel like with the smaller scope of these expansions, if they miss, they're going to miss hard, and that does still worry me. Moving on from the story then is Kepler, the new destination. Now, it's slightly smaller again. It's not the same vast size as Witch Queen or the Final Shape or even Near Muna, but I would say it's dense. It's full of stuff. It's full of secrets. And the added Kepler abilities or dark matter abilities do add something to the area. They came out very early on and said that Kepler was meant to be a Metroidvania. And I love a Metroidvania. I love upgrading your abilities and then finally getting access to new and more areas and more secrets and more, in this case, chests and loot. And I think they have really nailed a Metroidvania. Now, if you hate Metroidvania, then you are probably going to have a problem with this. There's a little bit of backtracking. There's a little bit of finding the right nodes to activate the abilities to then start the chain of trigger this, move through this, turn it into a ball, travel down the hole. And if you don't like that, then you're probably not going to enjoy Kepler. But I do like that, and I love Kepler. There's lots of little secrets, there's lots of paths, there's lots of tunnels, there's lots of ways of using the abilities, not necessarily just in world traversal, but also in combat as well. It adds to Kepler, it adds this sense of engagement to the world that was missing in things like Near Muna. And I think it makes Kepler have a depth that previous locations were definitely missing. You don't have lost sectors like in other Destiny areas, which are like mini little dungeons, I guess you could say, but there is lots of activities going on in the world. The enemy density seems quite high, and the respawn rate of the enemies is also quite high. So everywhere you go, there's always something to shoot or something to do, a new path to take or a new secret to be unlocked. And that's why, even though Kepler is not big or vast, it is deep. And as you work your way through the story and upgrade these dark matter abilities, you find yourself being able to access slightly more areas. Now, one thing a Destiny vet might notice is the lack of Sparrow, or a speeder bike, in Destiny. Kepler doesn't have access to the speeder, and a couple of times throughout the campaign I was thinking, oh, I'd love to just bring out my Sparrow and just like go along. And once you finish the main campaign, you find yourself having access to these abilities very frequently. It completely negates that worry, though it does also completely negate the idea of having a speeder or a Sparrow inside your inventory for the destination of Kepler. I think this comes down to a bit more personal preference. There's some people like myself that are going to really enjoy the increase in variety that these abilities give you in world traversal. But there are also people that are going to be like, I just want to jump on my Sparrow and go, I don't care. One other thing with the new abilities that really adds to Kepler is finding the nodes to trigger these abilities, even after the story, can be cumbersome. Sometimes specific nodes are very hard to find to unlock pathways, and this could very be simply be put down to a skill issue. But I think the game needs a little bit of a noise or a sound effect for certain nodes to really allow the player to identify where some of the hidden ones are. And I think that would help with this sense of traversal after the campaign. So now we get on to difficulty. Difficulty has always been a bit of a hot topic in Destiny. There are a big portion of the community that is slightly more casual. There's also a very, I would say, vocal part of the community that are quite hardcore. And I think what they're trying to do with this expansion is give the player more choice about how difficult they really want their experience, which I love, because I'm definitely more on the side of the fence of I want the game to be harder than it is genuinely. So in this vein of difficulty, we've got a couple of new enemy types, one for the Vex and one for the Elixni. Both are kind of interesting. The Elixni get a flying hover boy, reasonably simple to take out, and the Vex get a little swarm cluster. Shoot the little swarm boys to make the main swarm easier to deal with, or shoot the main swarm and then all the little swarms will chase after you like little bombs. Both these enemies do add something to the flow of combat. Hiding from the Elixni that can now fly with their jetpacks is slightly harder because they have a height advantage on you and they are slightly more maneuverable. And the little swarm boys, when not dealt with correctly, can then lead to dishing out a lot of damage. So both of these things add a nice variety to the combat encounters, and I like the fact this expansion has not added in a new race but then adjusted the races we already know, making the combat counters a little bit fresh. We also now have something called Banes, where enemy mobs can have a bane, this being you have to take them out in a specific way or they have additional effects and stuff like this. There have been ones that explode in massive explosions. If you don't deal with them quick enough, they charge up and just do a massive amount of damage. And there are also ones that you have to melee. There's also ones that will throw out an AoE, that's a gravity AoE, so it'll drag you out of cover and stuff like that. I think a lot of these will be experienced more in the end game as I increase the difficulty of the game, so this is something we'll probably get onto in a future video. We'll also cover the portal and the real difficult customization of the game in a later video as well, apart from doing the game on the legendary campaign, which is meant to be the more difficult version of the campaign, but I didn't have too many issues using builds from back when Final Shape launched. I haven't really experienced the difficulty or the new difficulty options and stuff like that. So we'll have a more in-depth look at difficulty in a future video. When it comes down to the new gear and the way gear works now with the new stats and the tier system, we'll have a look at this in a future video as well. So make sure you get like and subscribed for the follow-up video where we go more in depth to late game systems. Because apart from picking up random bits of gear throughout the legendary campaign, I haven't really experienced too much with the new gear system. Class items actually have stats now, so that's exciting, I suppose. One of the things this expansion also brought in was a stat squish, where instead of thousands of damage being dealt and being at like level or light level 1,000 or 2,000, you're actually going to start at level 10 or light level 10, and you're going to be doing 10, 15, 80, 100 damage plus. And this is something that I actually really appreciate. I do like a stat squish. When you get up to numbers that are absurd, it can be very enjoyable. But Destiny's numbers have never been so large, apart from the brief time we had the awesomeness of Golden Gun doing 1 million damage. Destiny's never had a number system that are so large like a Diablo. You just feel like you are literally God. Destiny's combat is more focused around the feel of the weapons and the time to kill of enemies in the game. So the stat squish bringing these damage numbers down to lower figures is actually something I quite appreciate. I like the level climb from 10 to 450. I think it feels more impactful. And I also think going from 10 damage to 15 damage feels more impactful than going from 100 to 150. So if you're not going to be doing outlandish amounts of damage like in Diablo, doing millions and billions of damage on the screen, I think actually having smaller values is not only easier to calculate, but also feels more impactful when you go from sort of 10 to 15 to 80 to 400. Things that hit hard feel like they really hit hard. And I think this comes in line with the UI changes that the game has made. From a narrative standpoint, they've added in some dialogue boxes that I think are really quite nice. They are clean, they are easy to read. Feels like you're actually having a conversation more than just reading a dialogue box. But also the stats of weapons, the stats of buffs, what your numbers are actually contributing to is better laid out on the screen for newer players and veteran players as well. We can actually see and understand where our damage is coming from a lot more than we ever used to be able to. And for me, as a data analyst, then this is fantastic. And lastly, I think we come down to the business model. Now, this has been an area of contention for me because Bungie do something I hate called triple dipping, where you have to buy the expansion and you have to buy the season pass or the battle pass or reward pass, whatever you want to call it. And there is also a cosmetic shop. Now, we'll call it a reward pass for argument's sake. But in the past, you would have had to buy that reward pass to get access to that season. And if you didn't, you were very limited on the amount of stuff from the season you can actually experience. So the way I would explain this to people is it's basically a subscription. If you want to experience Destiny in its entirety, you have to buy the reward pass subscription. You would have to buy the expansion, and then there'd be a cosmetic shop on top of it. Now, in the past, Bungie have also sold their dungeons separately, which is pretty bad. And with the launch of this expansion, they have streamlined this and made it better. If you buy the standard edition of the Edge of Fate, you will get the Edge of Fate expansion, the new raid, and the reward pass. So it's one price for everything. You will also then have to contend with a cosmetic shop. Now, in 3 months' time, we're going to be getting another big patch, which is free for everyone. And it will also come with an additional rewards pass, which will be £10. So there's that. After that, there will be another expansion 6 months from now. You buy the expansion, you get the rewards pass and the new dungeon included. So it's one price for the whole thing. And then the next free update, there will be another reward pass for £10. And then on top of all this, there's a cosmetic shop. So it's a lot more streamlined and a lot more simple and a little bit more fair. With reward passes becoming more of just a Fortnite type battle pass thing and doesn't have any features locked behind it is really, really good. A lot more optional, less of this subscription model in inverted commas than it has been in the past. I can just say to a friend, buy the expansion, and if you enjoy it, great. And you can play for 6 months, and you don't have to put any more money into it to get the full experience. And if you're a big Destiny fan, you can basically do what you always used to do anyway, and buy the £80 bundle and get the whole year and every single reward pass and everything included. I have to say that now I am on board. The execution of this expansion in its early days has got me excited for where Destiny is moving to. I don't know if it's there yet. We'll find out in the next few weeks. But it's definitely got me excited to play more. I want to play more. And we'll figure out in the next few weeks if Bungie has done what I think needs to be done to the game to really push it forward to be that exciting looter shooter that it used to be back in D1. But I think that's all for me. If you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button. There'll be more Destiny content coming shortly. We're not a Destiny channel, but I do focus on reviewing video games, and this is a pretty big launch for me. So if you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time while we're on our Destiny journey.
I thought I recognized those symbols.